do not know who the student was. I don't even think I saw him. He was wearing black. He didn't look very large. Male student. He was out there shooting. It looked like he was climbing out and shooting. And somebody, I said, what is that? I said, what's going on with this? It's fire cap gun. It's probably the video production. You know, they do these videos.
Right.
And the kids say, well, that's not, you know, a play gun, a real gun. I was going out there to say no. And I went, oh my God, that was really close. That'll be
Okay. What's your name, ma'am? Patty?
Yelling everybody get up right now. Please go to the library. Please get everybody get up right now.
Okay.
I have him in the library shooting at students for the lady that I have in the library on the phone.
Okay, try and keep as many people down as we can.
The chilling conversation we just heard was recorded during the infamous shooting at Columbine High School in 1999. Since then, the Chicago Tribune estimates that there have been more than 188 mass shootings at schools and universities in the United States alone. When you include shootings that occur in places other than schools, the statistics are even more staggering. By definition, a mass shooting is when 4 or more people are killed by 1, sometimes 2 assailants. In the case of Columbine High School, 12 students and 1 teacher died before the 2 shooters were killed. In the case of a more recent shooting in Las Vegas, 58 people died. With mass shootings occurring more frequently than ever before, we need to arm ourselves with knowledge. We're not debating laws, policy, or gun control today. We're going to learn specific tips from our experts on how to survive when an active shooter attack is in your midst. Advice that could save your life and the lives around you when we return from a short commercial break. Welcome back to What's the Matter, where we're about to learn ways to help survive an active shooter. Before we meet with our first guest, let's watch this video produced by the Office of the Mayor in Houston about what to do if there's an active shooter in your midst.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your #1 priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone, and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly. The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter. Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Okay, we're here with Warren Kennedy, someone who has spent years and years and years working on active shooters and training law enforcement to deal with active shooters and teaching people what to do in the event that they're in a church or a school or a movie theater or a restaurant or a business.
Anywhere.
And an active shooter walks through the door.
When we say active shooter, so many people concentrate strictly on firearms.
Yes.
And although that may be the prevailing weapon of choice, as we're seeing happening in other countries, countries that have more strict firearms laws, someone wanting to do havoc is not beyond straight edge weapons such as knives or hatchets or machetes and those type things.
Sure.
So
they can do just as much damage.
Violent, critical incidents.
I am in this station right now, and somebody walks in with an AK-47 and starts shooting. What do I do?
One of the first things I do when I enter any place is I take a trip around the property.
Okay.
I want to know where I'm at. I want to know where the exits are. I want to see what type of doors are on the rooms, so that if we begin to hear gunshots right now, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? You only have 3 choices. You can run, you can hide, or you can fight. Doesn't really matter which one you choose. You just got to be committed to what you choose. If I choose to run, I know where I'm going to run, how I'm going to get there. But if that is suddenly blocked, What's my next alternative?
In other words, you decide there's active shooter out in the hallway. You decide you're going to exit that door, but you find the door locked. Now you have to go to plan B.
Immediately, you need to know what your plan B is.
Okay.
You don't have to stop and think about it. And that brings me back to what I said about taking the tour of the station. If I hear the gunshots and my choice is to run, where am I going to run? Can I get out of the building? You look for the orange light that says exit.
Now, might you position yourself near the orange light deliberately because if something happens, you can exit?
I don't, because in a movie theater, where are all the orange lights?
They're on the sides and way down front,
Normally
where
they're
a
down
shooter
front,
would be.
Where the shooter will be.
You'd be running right into the line of fire.
And for me, I'm a back against the wall kind of guy. But with that comes some negatives. If you do decide to run, you've lost half your options because there's a wall behind you.
Right.
However,
and the only way out is past the shooter. It seems to me the worst place to be in an incident of that type would be in a movie theater.
I don't let the threat of a violent critical incident tell people not to go out and live life to their fullest. Right. You want to go to a movie every week, go to a movie every week. But be aware of the fact that if you're in that theater and you hear gunshots,
you're at high risk.
Are you going to run? Are you going to hide? Or are you going to fight? My safety is my responsibility. And when I go and I speak with people, churches and businesses, I try to instill, if you've never thought about surviving, you need to start thinking about it. The key is to sit down as a family and let's discuss how will we survive it. If I choose to run, keep up. If I choose to hide, you hide with me. If I choose to fight and I go down, you hide under me. I was in Nashville.
Yes.
I went to First Baptist Church, Hendersonville. Large church. There's only 5 doors in their sanctuary. 3,500 people. How can 3,500 people get out of 5 doors? How do I know there's only 5 doors? Because I took my tour, okay? I looked where the cameras were. I looked to people that stood out. Were they security? What can we do? Remember, Cain killed his brother. He used a rock, most likely, because I don't think there was Smith & Wesson at the time. Mm-hmm. So we know bad people will do bad things. So I'm sitting in that Baptist church or the synagogue, and I hear the gunshots. Where's the sound coming from? I'm going to move away from that sound. There's only 5 doors and 3,500 people are trying to get out of those doors, but I hear the gunshots coming closer. I can't get out, so I know at this point, where can I hide? I don't have to fight until I confront the bad guy. I've noticed they got a large choir loft. Hey, is there a baptismal pool? Maybe it's a pretty good place to hide. All those are just things that no matter where I'm at, be a house of worship or even in this room that we're in, that I think about from the moment I walk in. I've got no problem with running. I really don't.
I don't either.
I'm okay with the runner. Run. Call 911 when it's safe to do so.
Yeah.
Okay? I've got no problem with you hiding. If I say, let's go this way, you say, no, I want to hide. Well, I hope I see you on the other side. Mm. If you survive and I didn't, you can say, I told him to stay. And if I survive and you don't, I'm going to say, I told him to run with me.
Right.
You do what you feel is best for you. I'm going to do what I think is best for me. Lastly, though, if I come down to the fight, I carry a knife everywhere. So if I'm choosing to run, my knife is going to be close by. What if, well, I work someplace where I can't have a knife. Well, what about a ink pen? If I encounter someone blocking my way, a shooter, I understand. He's got a semi-automatic handgun or a semi-automatic rifle or a revolver, whatever the case might be, and all I've got is a pen. But guess what?
That pen can become a weapon.
I am using that pen with my dying breath.
Or the fire extinguisher on the wall, or anything you can get your hands on.
Anything at all, be it that piece of board leaning against the wall. Even if I choose to run, I'm taking my coffee mug with me.
Because it becomes a weapon.
It becomes a weapon.
Welcome back. We're here with Lieutenant Augst. Lieutenant, welcome. And Lieutenant Brown, welcome. Both of you work in SWAT and you respond to active shooting events.
Yes, sir.
I'm in a restaurant or in a building. What do I do if somebody comes in and they start shooting?
Well, about a year ago, the Sheriff's Office in New Hanover County adopted a program and endorsed a program. It's called the ALICE Training Institute, the ALICE program.
Yes.
For active shooter response for civilians. For years, we have taught people to, or told people to, you know, hide under a desk or hide in a corner or something like that.
Yes.
And wait for us to get there. But what we're finding in recent years is that making yourself a more difficult target increases your chances of surviving the incident.
Sure.
So we're recommending things like, you know, barricading the door, countering them, or, you know, being a distraction, a moving target, throwing things, those kinds of activities that make you a more difficult target rather than just one that someone can walk in and find someone just standing there hiding under a desk. That's too easy to hit.
Based on your training and you heard gunshots outside, what would you do? What would be your knee-jerk reaction?
Are we still police officers?
No, you're
Okay.
not police officers. You're retired.
You want to try to get away from the location, but if it's a situation where you're unable to, if somebody were to come into this room right now and we didn't have any type of firearms or we didn't have anything, as like Lieutenant Alex was saying, pick up something. We could pick up this coffee mug right there and take their mind off of what they're, because if they come in here, the only mindset that they've got is pulling that trigger. And if we take the coffee mug and throw it at them, then that disrupts that thought process. So their mind is not only thinking about pulling the trigger, it's also trying to avoid getting hit by this, and that may be just that momentary lapse in their thought process to where we can actually go and attack them and change the mindset from I'm being a sheep into a sheepdog. Does that make?
That makes perfect sense.
Because if we just sit here, then we're sheep. But if we change the thought process, they become the sheep and we become the sheepdog and going after the individual.
The human mind can't acquire two targets at one time. You can't not observe that thing flying at you and try to assess whether that is a threat to you or not and acquire another target at the same time. You can't do both things. That gives the potential target, a second or 2 seconds to move, to counter in some other way or follow up with something else. It gives you an advantage. In defending yourself or in the counter step of the course that we teach, it gives you time to do something else. So what's your next plan after that? I'm going to throw that and then I'm going to either follow up with that and charge him, or I'm going to seek an exit, or I'm going to move, I'm going to scream. There's always something more that you can do beyond that to not be a victim.
Doing something is a lot better than doing nothing, because if you do nothing, then you're just, like you said, you're just an easy target. Anybody can walk in here and shoot a pile full of whatever, or children or adults or whatever. It's a lot harder if you're throwing something at them, countering their attacks, taking their mind off of what their intended to target was, and now you've put them on the defense and now you're on the offense.
How do you survive a violent critical incident while protecting your loved ones? Do you have a plan? These situations are more common than ever, and it's important to arm ourselves with knowledge and be prepared with a survival strategy. Next week on What's the Matter, we're going to expand on this episode, delivering more potentially life-saving advice about surviving violent critical incidents. That's all for today on What's the Matter. I'm Chuck Whitlock. And remember, if it matters to you, it matters to us. See you next time.